Okay, I'm just going to talk rallying this week. Just back from the Ilkley event up in North Yorkshire, back out in Gareth Amazon. We were pretty good until the night section, regularity 6. What happened then? So, yeah, it's quite an interesting. It was a new style of navigation, not irritating by any means. It sort of relied on, you could pre-plot most of it, but there were subtleties in the average speeds and timing, which then got handed kind of almost through the window at the end. So that was quite a clever nuance and worked quite well, actually, I thought. So most of the day, for 5 of the 6 regularities, we were pretty good. We were there or there. We were good for me anyway. Sort of putting in like an occasional 19 seconds adrift, which was slightly frustrating, but a lot of sub 10s and 0s and 1s. So pleased with that. So test 4 was a bit of a panic. It was on the quarry and there was a lot of shale around, and about halfway, well not even halfway, a third of the way round it, dreadful knocking, kind of sounded like prop shaft. So we limped to a finish very gingerly and then pulled over. Thankfully it had stopped raining by this stage, so down I lay in a relatively mud-free area, and had a fish around, and the prop shaft, I thought, this being an early car, I thought maybe the prop shaft centre bearing had popped off its donuts and was flapping. That was absolutely fine. It all felt fine as you rotated it just through the 5 degrees or so that's available when the car is static. So I was a bit confused, so I then stuck my hand up the rear tunnel. That was clear. So I stuck my hand, could just about get my fingers into the front tunnel. So in other words, pretty much where the centre bearing is. And I just thought there was a sense that there was a bit of shale up the very leading edge. Anyway, after much wriggling and squirming around under the car, I managed to get a fingertip on it, and there was a piece of shale there that was just hitting, or the prop shaft was hitting this shale and just keeping it in place. So pop that out and we were good to go again. So pleased with that. And then darkness fell and regularity 6. And I'll show you that on the map when I get home this evening, because it's quite a nice one. I quite liked it. And I'll explain how I managed to drop a code board there, which I have, both Amy and I have the same opinion of, dropping a controller or a code board we regard in 12 car terms as a fail. You're out of the offing in the rally. But actually in HRCR events, dropping a code board, whilst you're not going to stay in the top 5, you could be in the top 10. And indeed, looking at the results, had I got that code board, not only would we have been we were first in class anyway, but we would have been 10th overall as well, which shows you just never give up, basically. We still managed to get first in class despite dropping that code board, and quite pleased. Anyway, it's jolly chilly out here. I've got to spray this car down before handing it over to Brian for a little bit of body work, and we'll look at that map tonight together. So see you in a few hours when hopefully our kitchen will be a bit warmer than it is here. So the Ilkley Jubilee had 6 regularities and 8 tests. The regularities were big ones, actually. Even Gareth spotted that they were actually pretty significant regularities, and they were nice. They were really enjoyable, I have to say. To a man, each one was actually enjoyable. But let's have a look at that last one after dusk had fallen. So we were into darkness, out on above Leyburn Moor and above Richmond, if you know Yorkshire. And I'll go through the process, because this is quite interesting, because this is pure plot and bash. And as such, there's a couple of key points here, and one of the real tricks to being good at plot and bash is that you get your driver to take over doing the average speed as best they can, whilst you take the opportunities where you can to get ahead and plot. And oddly enough, this one comes out as actually a very simple task, except that I made a silly mistake because I forgot one of the instructions that I twigged on when I first looked at the handout. So let's go through it. Okay, on the screen now, this is what we were given as the pre-plot before the rally started. It's called a London road map, and it's a series of coordinates basically, and you have to read very carefully what the instructions say here, because in this instance they have used the original 1950s, 1960s 1 inch to the mile map, and therefore various roads have disappeared, various roads have been instated, various whites have been made coloured, and various colours have been made white. So your first task is to read that top right corner very carefully to understand which way round you expect to be plotting. But anyway, your first task is to go through that 1 inch to the mile map and transpose the exact position of each of those lettered coordinates onto your nice sexy new 1 in 50,000 map. And that's what you do. So we had that, all those individual coordinates plotted before we ever started the event. What we didn't have was the instructions. And here is the instructions. Picture yourself sitting in the navigator's seat 30 seconds before your start time. You've remembered to reset the trip meters. It's raining, it's dark, you've got two maps on your lap because we have both 99 and 98 covers this one regularity. We already know that from our pre-plot. And 30 seconds, in comes this handout here. So you're sitting there and you get the first sight of it. Your right hand is on, just about to set the clock off when the marshal tells you 0. And you have a few seconds just to scan down there. And the first thing you see reading from top to bottom is that it's all roads. So whites are included. Okay, so that's a little bit of extra task at the beginning, because remember, our first task is to identify where and when we can plot ahead without risking missing some navigation. Then we spot that there's a Knotter's Map 2, a little diagram showing us that at point I, we have basically into the car park beyond the slot left, back, T-junction, turn right. And so you now have 2 bits of information. You know that very early on you're going to have a Knotter's Map junction, so there's going to be a code board or a marshal up there. You know where your start point is, you know which direction you're going, and you know it's all roads. So the next task is to look ahead to see where the first possible junction is to allow you, and therefore define how long. So let's look at the maps now. So here we are.
Here you go, Deaky. It's toy time. It's Deaky toy time. He does this quite a lot in the evening. You might want to play.
I'm not sure how much peace we're going to get.
Anyway, we'll keep going.
We'll try, but there's going to be some yapping, I suspect. Okay, so here we are. We're at the start of regularity 6. We're heading north-northwest up this yellow. Deke, no. Stop it.
Go and play with Zippy.
So the marshal said 0, so we're setting off, and the starting speed is 30 miles an hour. And we know that's going to be until TC2. So we've got the first TC before we have to do a speed change. So already you've simplified things. Just tell your driver, 30 miles an hour, please. Do the best you can. Next, we look ahead up this yellow. Okay, there's a white out here, but here is point I, up at this junction, which is just up the top here, about there on this map. So we know we've got something like 8 kilometres at least before we have to see a junction, consider a junction, because look, it's just straight up here. There is no shortcut on a white. So we've got 8 kilometres. We've told our driver 30 miles an hour. The only thing we've got to do now is make sure he tells us before we get there that we're approaching it. Here, over Cogden Gill, it goes down a steep hill, 90 left almost, into a hairpin right over the gill and back up again. Now this is going to be a really obvious series of bends for your driver. So you say, at the 90 left, down a steep hill, 90 left, hairpin right over a gill, tell me to wake up because I've got to navigate. And having got up to here, you immediately write down this triangle here. And that will remind you that you've got a longest way round Motter's map triangle to look at. So off we go at 30 miles an hour up this road, and you get ahead plotting. Well, the next one is to A, and we find A is just down here. So we look down, obviously much of it's going to be the yellow, even if we get a bit of white at the end, but there's no quick way to go via white. So it's straight down the yellow, 90 left here, hard right, down to, it's a staggered crossroads, but it's actually a slot left, into A, and then we have G. G is approach from the east, depart north. Well, here we go, the first bit of good fun. To approach from the east, you've got to take this white here. So we're going to come down the yellow. Where the yellow goes 90 left underneath the railway, you're going to tell your driver to go straight on onto the white, and then he gets to the coloured road again, it's depart north. Okay, so we've got down here, around there, up north. Next, we're looking for D, approach from the north, depart west-southwest. So where's D? There. And this is where I was saying about accurately plotting your point, because the giveaway on the 1-inch map was that you had this footpath coming in, there. Their coordinate was below the footpath, not above. So it's this junction here on the white. So if we approach from the north and depart west-southwest, that means we've got to be going up here, down the white, and then exiting out. And hence, my little nomenclature is to do something like this little kick, or significant kick in on my routing. Okay, what is the next plot then? It is P followed by N followed by L. Okay, well P's obvious, it's going to be straight down there. N is on that junction there. There's no short. We're looking for white still, but there's nothing short. So we go down, over the water, onto the A road, T junction, turn left, slot right, and we're coming down here. We now have L, and we have to depart west from L. So we've got another white. Yay! Yay! Sorry, those of you who don't have Volvos might not be saying yay about all these whites, but those of us in Volvos love a white. So down the white, and then just as you join the main road, you've got a hairpin right, back up here. Up steep hill, up a steep hill, up another steep hill, into L, and slot left, or west. Next is C and E. Well, C's looking straight ahead. Obviously, you've got to look on ahead to make sure, but yeah, okay, C into E, That's fine there. That's straightforward. There's nothing exciting going on there. E, then we've got and E is depart west-northwest, which means, yep, just continue. You're not taking this white or anything silly like that. So next is H, approach from the south, depart west-northwest. Okay, so there's H up on the A road again. Approach from the south, depart west-northwest, so we're turning left at that. Look at that. There's two choices to get up, departing up here. And he's saying slot left, T-junction turn left, immediate slot right. So hence, once again, I've done this nomenclature of a kick in there and a kick out there. So we're turning T-junction turn left, immediate slot right. And that was H. So now we're getting towards the end, aren't we? F, approach from the southeast to M. Well, there's F, approach from the southeast. Again, just always looking out for a little tricky white, but there isn't. And then it's taking us all the way up to, we don't know anything else about F. It takes us up to M, and we've got no information, but there's M, all the way up at the B road. Well, you've got to get from F to M. There's no choices there. It's just straight up the yellow. Into the T-junction. And our final instruction is B, approach from the south, depart east. There's B. We approach from the south, depart east, down here, and into regularity finish. Well, to be honest, all of that was very easily achieved. I think probably we were about 2/3 up the road by this time. We hadn't even got close to Cogden Gill. So I just checked with Gareth that we hadn't done that 90 left and a hairpin right, although as a navigator you're going to be aware of doing that manoeuvre, so you know it's ahead. So I just reminded him. After that it was a slot left. Good. So off we trundled over the gill. Gareth metaphorically poked me in the eye and said, "We're here," and I then called it as 600 metres, looking out for a tight left. And Julie did, a slot tight left. What had I forgotten? It was that Notter's map, into the car park. So beyond the slot left into the car park, T-junction turn right and continue on. I dropped a code board. Just so stupid. Yeah, it's that thing, it was so obvious right from the very point of starting. I'd even triangled it down here on my map, so I had a clue there. I didn't
Let's
put
have a look at the map.
exclamation mark.
Triangle.
Why didn't I put an exclamation mark? That would have helped me. Why didn't I tell Gareth that that was the longest way round at the very beginning? He would have remembered that. There were so many ways we could have avoided that error. But there you go. Anyway, so that was a lovely section after that. It was hard work, staying on top of the times. I think probably the last two controls, we were really struggling to stay on top of the clock. And where was that lovely? That was a lovely hairpin right. Let me just see if I can't find it for you. It was a superb slot. It was up a steep hill. Okay. I think it was back here in Aysgarth. So we dropped round the back of Aysgarth here, down by the river, in onto the white, and then here I just had a sense of this hairpin right passing me, and we'd gone about 10 metres beyond it, slammed on the brakes and hit reverse, but two more competitors came right behind us and went on into Thorelby here, went straight past us without thinking, oh, why has he got his reverse lights on? So we backed up and managed to get round a very tight hairpin and then up these steep hills. So that was a lovely, yeah, that was kind of a good win for us. Two other higher seeded navigators missed that tight right that we got. However, having missed the code board up at I didn't feel that pleased with myself, I confess. But anyway, then we go up and we went into the penultimate control somewhere around here on Whitterside Moor and continued on into here, over the water, T-junction, and we wanted to turn left, but on here on the signboard, road sign, was an Ilkley Motor Club arrow pointing right. Now, what that actually meant was they'd cancelled the last section and we were just to head straight into MTC. However, that previous control had told us nothing about a change in the regularity. We had not signed an amendment to say that that regularity had changed, and so I took the decision that we had to continue as if it was good, and if it wasn't, then all it meant was we were just a bit later coming into MTC. So we went out and did this section, and there was a gate, I think that's it there, if you look on the map there, that gate there was shut. Now this used to happen in days of old on road rallies, that there would be gates on there and you'd have to get out, and then if there was a car straight behind you, you'd let them shut it, or if there wasn't a car straight behind you, you would shut it yourself. Anyway, went in and sure enough there was nobody at the finish control, so we just kind of wasted our time up that bit, which was a bit frustrating. But there you go. So what's my conclusion there? Really good. Just a great section. What an idiot to have missed that, to have plotted it, to have known it right from the very first moment I looked at the instructions. I knew it was there. It never even occurred to me that I would forget it in the next 5 minutes. So in those situations, the learning points are, one is they've given us a really long haul out to do all the plotting nicely. They'd given us a simple speed, just 30 miles an hour until the first control. Didn't have to worry about speed at all until you got to the first control. They'd given us an instruction right at the beginning, so therefore the first junction of the entire section was a Notter's map, longest way round. Easy, couldn't forget it, could you? Apparently you can. But there you go, plot and bash, London Road Book, in the night, in the dark, in the rain. Absolutely marvellous. Okay, that's enough of that. You probably got bored minutes ago, but yeah, there you go. Nice bit of map work. Thank you.